Beyond the Wild.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Beyond the Wild. Tonight, we're bringing this thing all the way around, and we have a couple special guests for you. But first, Mark, Jason, welcome back. Jason, welcome back from the East Coast.
Yep.
Back to Mountain Time.
Yep.
Mark,
it was warmer up there than it is here.
Well, it was warmer here than it was there before.
Fair enough.
At one time.
Right, the one time. Yeah, exactly. I think I know it was dropping significantly when I left, and there was a little bit of snow last week before I left. So, But yeah, anyways.
And Mark is home, been home for a while now. Are you actually editing now, Mark, or are you
I am.
not quite to editing season?
Definitely in editing. Been editing for almost a week. It's crazy. And it's been yo-yo weather since that subject came up. It was really cold over the weekend. It's actually pouring rain right now. Going to be above freezing for a few days and then drop to super cold again next weekend.
Yep.
So,
We got some editing right now, huh?
Exactly. Well, he might be.
Yeah.
If his eyes glaze over, you just know that he's in the Lightroom catalog.
He's got the multi-monitor.
Yeah.
It's
getting
really
really,
If his
really
eyes
close.
start darting.
Yeah. Really close to the screen. He's looking for, is that a spot?
Do you guys do that? Do you edit where you're like,
Hey, hang on. Before you take over the show, let me make an introduction. So tonight, we've got our special guests from the Photographer's Mindset, Seth, Macey, and Aaron Menace. Welcome, guys.
thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Okay, Seth, go on. What were
Now
you
you
saying?
can joke.
I'm not going to take over the show. I'm not the host. That's what happens when you do so many damn podcast episodes.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So what were you asking, Mark?
Oh, we were talking about editing. I wondered if, you see all the jokes where people get super close to their screen when they're editing and like moving sliders. And then when you go outside and you can't see more than 2 feet past your head. I was wondering if that happens to you guys when you get really into like an editing session.
is this an ageism thing? Is that where you're going with this?
No, it happens to me.
It is.
I was wondering if you old guys need the bifocal glasses.
All right. If we're
Quality
going to come right out of the gate like this,
No, I'm with you guys. I just had a birthday.
No,
I'm
you're
in my
not.
mid-40s.
Oh,
I'm getting there.
you're definitely not
Mid
with
40s
us.
is that's when the switch flips, though.
there. Yeah.
It's pretty
That's
close.
when you
But
Yep.
just had an eye doctor appointment this morning, actually, and in my 40s, I only had to have one prescription. That is no longer the case. I have to have the bifocals plus a different pair for when I'm working on the computer.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Seth, no, I have to stay the absolute same distance from the monitor because my prescription is only for that distance.
Oh, right on. I'm speaking from experience. I get right in there. Sometimes I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, my nose is touching the webcam.
Can't do
Sometimes
it.
I'm spot removing some spittle, some dried up spittle. And you're like,
I did that
Oh, that's the screen.
2 weeks ago. I tried to remove the same spots off of different images, and it was the screen every time.
Yep.
Nothing
start
moved.
thinking my sensor's dirty, and it's
Yeah.
not. It's your screen.
That's your screen.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so I mean, this may seem like a silly question, but doesn't your mouse click and zoom the image in, right? So you don't have to move your head and everything gets closer to you?
See, now this is a reverse ageism where your wisdom is shining through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll
I
call
like
it
it.
even.
All right, we'll call it there. So, gentlemen, you guys have had all three of us on your show talking about the mindset, and we're going to get to that in a little bit because I think it's a great concept, and to listen to the variety of guests that you all host on your show, I think it gives a ton of different perspectives from different genres, and I think we can all glean something every week. But how about the two of you? When did you first pick up your camera,
I'll go first.
and why?
Oh, good. I would say about 10 years ago was when I first started getting interested in photography. And I tell this story frequently. It was before social media was really a big deal or had much presence in today's world. So I like to think that I'm super fortunate in that I fell in love with photography when it was purely just for the sake of being creative. And I could get super excited about creating something from scratch from my imagination and not feel obligated like I had to share it somewhere. Which was, really empowering in a way to be able to creatively express yourself and not, I know like people who have just gotten into photography now feel like I sometimes empathize or sympathize with them because there's like this obligation that I got to share this online or I gotta do all this stuff. So I feel privileged in a sense. I've only grown up with digital photography, but just started and grew that love before, Facebook, Instagram really took off. And started off doing just anything. I think that's some of the advice we give on our show is shoot as many genres as you can. Find what you like. Lots of different techniques from different genres overlap and are helpful. Did mostly a lot of self-portrait stuff, portraits. I do commercial work now. And then wildlife was kind of the passion. That's what's on my Instagram. That's the fun stuff. And that started maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I just kind of got hooked. It gets you outside in nature. You got to research. And as you guys know, learn about your subjects. It's a lot more than just taking a picture, which is, I feel like, not hating on other genres, but it just offers that extra solitude in nature and a little bit more, I think, I guess a little bit of academia too, like researching and tendencies and biology and all those fun things, which is interesting to me. And curiosity has kind of always led my nose.
I thought I was an animal behaviorist until I started photographing wildlife. And I thought I understood animal behavior. I mean, my degree was in wildlife biology. I spent time outside nonstop. I mean, from when I was a little kid, they just turned us loose. And I thought I understood animal behavior. But when I picked up a camera and started spending time and, waiting for different things, I think that's when I really started to learn animal behavior. And so I think what you said kind of hit home a little bit in that regard. It makes a huge difference when you have a camera in your hand and you're waiting for the right moment. Watch the details. I mean,
watching animals is just genuinely interesting. And when I'm interested in things, I tend to stick with it personally, just out of genuine curiosity. But
yeah.
I'm sure you guys can relate.
Absolutely.
All at for wildlife photography for me is out there with the animals and in the wild, in the elements, factoring all that in to try and make a fantastic image. And the behavior is one of the biggest parts, but not just the behavior. It's putting yourself in the right place with, as you said, Seth, the research, the know-how, where things are, the comfort, the safety, common sense. Keep that at the forefront.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have nearly the experience that you guys do, but I've also come to learn that I used to struggle with this, that if I would go out and not reach my desired outcome, it was a failure. And now I've learned to just, as an example, today, like a crow made a noise I'd never heard. That's cool. And counting that as a win for the excursion or the outing,
Yep.
What was that noise?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try and imitate it and embarrass myself. They got to make hundreds of different vocalizations, no?
It's crazy what the sounds they make, for sure.
Aaron, how about you?
Kind of a gradual sort of addiction, I would say. Growing up in the 80s and 90s, I was blessed enough with my family to travel a bunch and go to a bunch of different places. And my parents would always give me a Ziploc bag with 2 to 4 disposable cameras as a kid. So I have those photo books tucked away somewhere, probably in my parents' attic, but some exotic places. Israel, South Korea, regions in Italy. I traveled a lot. Arizona out west, Hawaii, Banff, and Jasper as a kid. Seth and I just went there, and it's funny to try to recreate some of the pictures I had from when I was a kid 30 years ago, and how much it's built up from then. But I've always liked it. I've always liked the process of enjoying a moment, capturing a moment, and then developing that moment and having that moment. I think it faded with some sports and normal sort of growing up things, high school and college. But I do remember always being very interested, especially during the digital sort of transfer. I remember purchasing my own digital camera that you actually put a floppy disk into. Like it must have been the smallest megapixel camera ever. It looked about the size of a floppy disk, and you would literally slide in one of those disks that we would save. I don't know if listeners even know what we're talking about here at this point, but it was kind of just like one of those things. And I kept up with those point and shoot cameras, going through college and, taking them to parties or concerts or whatever it may be. I think I had my first moment of like, I want to get into photography when my son was going to be born in about 2015, where I was like, I want to take really nice photos. I don't want to pay for someone to take really nice photos. I feel like I can try to figure this out. And I bought myself a decent camera, a Nikon D5300. Just a nice sort of bump. Yeah, he loves it. And I remember taking those photos and learning a little bit about Lightroom and editing and being like, wow, this is fun. Like you can make some really nice pictures, some nice images. And from there, it kind of fizzled a bit and, raising a child. But once he was old enough and I got into it a bit more, and to be frank and honest, I don't mind being vulnerable, but I went through a divorce and I needed something to fill, I think, that space and that void. And I was really into golf at the time, and I was taking photos of golf swings and golf courses. And someone saw my Instagram about golf and was like, you have a really good eye. You should get into this more. And that was all I needed to dig out that camera and sort of dive into imagery and photos. Made an Instagram, met Seth, met a few other people, a great community of photographers, some encouragement along the way. And that fuel, I give social media a lot of credit for fueling this sort of passion and giving me the encouragement and external validation or whatever you want to call it, but the fuel to like keep going and a bunch of peers to look at and see where the work could take me and all the images that you can make. From that, I had two very distinct wildlife moments that I credit for, I think, my obsession with wildlife and nature. One was a fox family that I heard was in this den area, and I laid out for, I think the total count was about 15 hours over a couple of days, just waiting. And then they finally emerged and played for hours for 3 days in a row. And I have still to this date, I think, some of my best images and my favorite moments. And I was absolutely hooked there. And then the second moment was finding out that we had kingfishers in the pond that I paddleboard in, and realizing that chasing an animal, I just remember being on this paddleboard and trying to swim up to this animal and take the photo of this bird. And it would just hop from pond to pond all the way around. And I was paddling 17 miles a day trying to get this damn photo until I finally realized I have to sit and wait for the entire time at one of the perches I kept seeing it go to, and just sitting there bored out of my mind, but enjoying nature. And then when you seem to forget about it, this bird flew up 10 feet from where I was and just was chilling and dive bombing for minnows and was getting awesome portraits. And this moment clicked of like, you gotta stop chasing, man. You gotta relax. And it sort of all came together of like, this is what it is. Like learn the environment, learn some behavior. And on day 3, you figure it out, give or take. And then you can wait. You know where they're going to be. You know what they're going to do. Just probability. And it turns out sometimes it doesn't, but it was super fun.
Yeah, see, for us old guys, that learning curve is a little different. You said learn day 1, learn day 2, day 3, you get the shot. For me, it's been like learn year 1, learn year 2, maybe year 3, try to get the shot. Still trying to get the shot, you know. So
I've said that before on the show, and I readjust it, and I go, day 1 can take a whole year. Right.
I know what you meant. Yeah, I'm just
there's like 3 stage. I always found there's like 3 stages. Like the first stage is like, oh, there's a fox in this area. I found prints. Stage 2 is where is it, and trying to figure that out. And then stage 3 is where do I have to be, and when to maybe get a shot of it.
Yeah, that's
and
nice.
each one of those stages can take weeks, months, years.
When he tells the story again, it'll be hour 1, hour 2, hour 3.
Yeah. Minute 1.
Yeah.
Stage 4 is you build your network, and which we often talk about, especially with wildlife. Build your network, and then somebody makes a phone call, and stage 1, 2, and 3 all happen in 15 minutes while you're on the phone visiting and getting information. And
you got a good friend that puts you right on a fox den and says, here's where you need to be. And then you get these cool shots. You're like, whoa.
Absolutely. But which one?
Jason experienced that
better?
last summer.
That's why I said it. Yeah.
Did you say where are those friends?
No, which one feels better?
Honestly, the one where you learn on your own definitely feels better. There's no question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not proud. You still have to put in the time, but I don't. Sure. I'm not above accepting information for sure.
I feel like when you've paid your dues, sometimes the nice, easy one is like, oh, okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Once in a while, it's nice to have a gimme, you know?
Yeah. That's why I bring the camera in the car a lot of the times, because it's like those side of the road gimmies I'll take. But you know, when you're really putting in the work and it comes through, it's like, whoa, that was cool.
Yeah. Even if you're not completely alone, I think the one that feels better is the one that you have to yourself. And you can just enjoy that moment rather than being shoulder to shoulder with 400 people in Yellowstone National Park, you know.
Yeah.
I
was hoping for that experience, Ron. I was waiting for you and Jeremy to leave, but
we weren't going to leave you out there.
I love when we're part of the problem. We're complaining.
Right.
So much traffic here. Damn it.
Yeah, right.
You can do an episode on building strategies to get other photographers out of your radius.
Yeah. So, I've been working on a reverse system. So everybody's got the scanner radios now. So if I can get a reverse system and call in wolf and grizzly bear reports and see, you know exactly who's listening, everybody that takes off, you know?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Or you need one of those, like, for the Christmas holiday parties, the get the out candle. Did you see that skit?
Oh.
No.
They're just sick of the family party, and they light this candle, and it's like the get the out candle, and it just, everyone's like, oh my God, like, we got to get out of here. It just smells so bad. It just clears the room. Yeah, you need one of those.
Holiday collection. Introducing the Get the Out of My House candle. It's the uninviting new fragrance that will let your guests know it's time to get the out of your house. Simply light the candle, and within minutes, unwanted guests will be a thing of the past.
Oh my God. What's it smell? You mean the Christmas spirit? Oh, it smells like hot garbage, like someone's microwaving garbage. Oh.
I'm sorry, I just remembered I have a thing. It's my dog's ballet recital.
Oh, fun. We should do this again.
Okay.
Love it.
So you guys talk to a lot of different people about mindset. But one of the questions that we get is just, how do you stay motivated? And I think that's something that comes across in your podcast quite often. So how do each of you stay motivated? I've heard your guests talk about it, but how do each of you stay motivated?
For me, I think it's unrealistic to think that you can be motivated 100% of the time, even with something you love. And I feel like often that frustrates people. It's like, man, I love this thing. I love wildlife photography, but today I really don't feel like going out. Mm-hmm. And I think people then start to question, well, do I really love this? And they can get in their head. And I think maybe like the first step for me was understanding that it's okay not to be psyched about doing something every single day. And you can still, in your heart, love it. And then you don't have that, you don't add that pressure to continue to push when really maybe what you should be doing is taking a step back for a week, let's say, or shifting your focus to, I'm going to edit this week. I really don't need to be putting in miles in backcountry because I'm just not feeling it. That doesn't mean I love this any less. I feel like if you can get to a point where you accept that with any of your passions or interests and alleviate some of that guilt, you can have more days where you're consistently motivated than not, in my personal experience.
Yeah, I think that's great, Seth. I think fire needs air to really burn. I look at many hobbies that or passions or whatever you want to call it, things that you're interested in, and there's some that fade to nothing, and there's some that you keep revisiting year after year, month after month, maybe for life. Music's one of those things. Guitar, piano, sometimes it's more on. Sometimes I'm obsessed with it for weeks at a time, or I'm trying to learn a specific thing. Sometimes I don't pick up the guitar for a couple months. But there's no doubt in my mind that I will eventually. I think it's like any relationship, even like a romantic relationship. You can't go on dates every single night and smother each other. Like, you need to give it some time to breathe. I think absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I think that's the same with passions too. Like, the fact that I have to go to work all week and maybe I get to do something on the weekend makes it very exciting. I don't beat myself up because I'm not doing it every single day. I just make the best of that time. And also, I think there's many avenues within a passion. So there's, in photography, we're talking podcasts, we're talking photography right now. That's scratching some sort of itch for all of us. We're doing it every single week. And that's part of it. That fulfills a piece of that pie. I think there's some commercial work you can do and learning new skills, or learning video, or learning editing, or learning Premiere, or a cool new editing trick. All those little things are pieces of it. And that's kind of what keeps me going and keeps it circular. Oh, I learned a new editing trick. Now I really want to go out and get a fresh wildlife photo so I can use that editing trick. And it keeps like this passion going.
Mark will sell you the preset, Aaron. You don't have to practice it. You can just hit apply.
Preset? Just apply it? No adjustments needed?
Jason's got one too.
Oh, can I apply both at the same time?
That might get a little funky.
That might get funky, yeah.
But what if it's something that's unbelievable that you never would have thought of on your own?
Well, if you applied both, it would be unbelievable.
If you applied both, it might be AI.
All roads lead to AI. I think.
No, actually, I know Mark and I are much the same when it comes to like saturating our colors. So if you applied both of our filters, you might be a little oversaturated.
A little bit, okay.
Do you guys rub off on each other though? Like, who you spend your time with rubs off on you, in personality wise and attitude, and you guys spend a lot of time together. So,
well, I mean, the truth of it is we don't necessarily. I mean, we do on here, but as far as being in the field, it's
I still consider that counts,
rare.
right? Virtually, no.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, the way we think. I mean, you two are very, the way when you guys are on a podcast, you're very in tune with each other, right? I think that rubs off for sure.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're the same way. We've definitely grown pretty strong friendships over, the years doing this together, and we've only been together in the field, a handful of times. Oh, yeah, Ron's making faces. So, really? But so yeah, I think you're right. I think some of that does rub off. But I feel like if you looked at our images, we all kind of have our own unique style.
For sure.
But
For sure.
have we learned from each other and apply some tips and tricks? Yeah, for sure.
And then, like, speaking of motivation, that's something I think Aaron and I advocate for all the time is get a group of people who make you better.
Yeah.
Even if that's not the main goal, like I'm sure you guys all make each other better, better people, better photographers, just by indirectly hanging out virtually or in the flesh.
So Mark's got as much experience in the field as the rest of us put together.
Right.
And then,
So that's a motivation for me because he's not only is he seeing things before I see him, but he's running to or moving to get where he needs to be to capture what he's seen. So that's definitely a motivating factor. Mark, you were going to say something earlier before Seth took over again.
No, it's very kind words, brother. Very, very kind. I don't know what I was going to say. Well, in regards to that subject, I mean, we all train our eyes to what we aspire to, whether it's on social media, whether it's print media, wherever we see images, we dream of certain compositions and experiences, and through the image, transform ourselves into wanting to be in that place at that time, something we aspire to. And I think that's a big driver for all creatives, people listening to the podcast all across the photography genre of wildlife and nature photography. We have people whose images at times especially inspire us, and places to go, and species to see, and environments, ecosystems. It's all of that put together creates a sliding scale and evolution of skill and composition for every individual photographer, and it's at their own pace, right? That's one thing I think people with social media, everything's fed instantly. You see the great stuff, the not so great stuff, everything's there, but the great stuff sticks to the wall, and it's like, wow, that's so good. People don't have to get there overnight. And I like images by people just because they're out there doing it too. It doesn't have to be 5 stars. It's like you're out there living life and enjoying it. That's what this is all about. So to be patient with oneself on that learning curve, and be happy with your own small successes. Mm-hmm. The key. But I'm all this, where my mind is thinking about your podcast and mindset and photography, and how that's important for the mental health and endurance of all of us, from beginner to seasoned. We all go through the emotions of it all the time. We love it, but that comes with emotion. So, but everybody here inspires me, right? For all different kinds of reasons.
And I think what Seth recognized early on as he started this, and hopefully I seamlessly added to, I hope, but wildlife photography especially, I feel like, is life. And you can learn a lot from being out there, and just a day is a lifetime in terms of, do things always go your way? No. Is the weather always perfect? No. Is the thing that happened that's amazing after something what you consider bad or misfortunate happened? Sometimes. Is the animal that you took the best picture of what you were seeking out to go do? Maybe, maybe not. So there's all these variables of, like, humans try to plan. I'm going to plan my life. I'm going to plan this job. I'm going to, have 2.5 kids and a white picket fence and a perfect wife and a perfect marriage and a perfect house. Like, we're always looking forward and planning it out. And then these curveballs come, and then these things happen in life, and you have to adjust. And I feel like that's mindset, and a strong mindset will get you through those, and recognize that this is life. It's not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. And being out there for an hour or days and just kind of going with the flow and doing your best to make good decisions or make good moves that may or may not work out, or may surprise you in a beautiful way, or may disappoint you in a way, you still have to, like, get through it. And I think if you look at it in that sense, it is all mindset, and it's all life in a microcosm, right? And I think that's where Seth and I kind of took it of like, there's so many aspects to photography that can get you through so many other things in life and help you to just navigate this passion and navigate life.
So going back to that, Seth, your original question, and I hope you know I'm just giving you a hard time about taking over. It's a natural thing for you at this point. But going back to your original question, do you guys choose your guests based on who motivates you? Or do you choose your guests based on just a part of their mindset that can be motivating to everyone?
Well, I can't speak for Aaron because we sometimes bring guests. Like when he brings a guest, I'm like, sweet, let's do it. Trust you entirely, right? And vice versa. For me, I don't care about follower counts for guests. It doesn't make you any better or worse of a photographer. I think you can cue in on people who are truly authentic and are cool with being themselves, being honest, being vulnerable if that's the case, despite maybe their many successes. I think it's important that in podcasts like this, in photos we share, in videos we post, that we're humanizing it, and it's relatable, and it's a shared experience that people can be inspired of, or take little nuggets of knowledge and apply it to their own life. That's valuable. That's valuable to me, and I like trying to find those kinds of people that have that and have that right energy. Just in, whether it's on the podcast or just in daily life, in general conversations. I think when you go looking for those kinds of people, you start to notice, like, oh, I hang around this person. There's something they can teach me, or they just have good energy or good vibes, and this is what I want to surround myself with.
How about you, Aaron?
I'd agree. I think it's impossible to fully vet everyone and know their exact history or know exactly how it's going to pan out. Sometimes we get a good feel or we have more conversation than others, but there's usually a thing, whether it's their work, a project they're doing, even as simple as a reel I saw where I was like, oh, Seth, this woman mentioned like this whole tie to, mental health, or her meditation in the woods while photographing, like something that keys us into, I feel like this conversation can go somewhere. And I'm of the belief that I feel like it's a win-win, even if a guest is, in my mind, in my opinion, or Seth's opinion, if we're on the same page there, of like, this guest maybe is not in it for the right reasons that we would suggest or pan out. I feel like our listeners can say like, and hear that and be like, oh, I didn't love that, or I don't want to be that way.
Yeah.
So either way, like either they have great nuggets or they have nuggets that stinky nuggets that our guest will listen to and be like, nah, I didn't love that vibe. And we're not all going to like everyone, and we're not all going to gel. And some guests are super humorous and there's a ton of banter, and some guests are super serious and it might, not appeal to everyone, but I feel like there's stuff in there no matter what. And then the just the beginning process is like, there's got to be something that catches Seth or I to be like, I think this will be good. I have a feeling. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling.
I think weekly we get to be students too.
Well, that's the best thing for us as well.
Right.
You get the opportunity to learn from all kinds of different people. And, when we first interviewed Jason,
what a mistake.
6 years.
What a mistake, he says.
Yeah. Jason had only been a photographer for like 3 years at the time or something like that. But man, did he have an eye. And it just catches on to things quick. So I think that was one of those times where you could just sit back and learn a little bit, even, and humble yourself because, I've got 10 years, or Mark, he's got 30 years. you can still learn from everybody that you talk to, everybody in the field that you have the chance to photograph with, things like that. And I think we can find motivation in anything. Going back to that conversation about staying motivated.
Mark brought up a good point about that too. He was celebrating people who maybe aren't taking 5-star images, but they're out in the field. Aaron and I talk about that a lot. Forward momentum is more important than 5-star results. I think we use the workout analogy. If you can't get your 2-hour workout at the gym in, but you can get 100 push-ups in, you're still moving forward, and that's to be celebrated.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think we, especially in the wildlife field, we get very confused between a polar bear and a red squirrel. We equate those as good images, where I just saw a photo of a red squirrel and it was an awesome photograph, an awesome image. Is the subject exciting, or is it taking you away from actual photography? I think they're two different things. I think it's important for people to separate that, especially living in Connecticut. I mean, there's a good amount of wildlife, but no one's taking trips to Connecticut for wildlife. Maybe they are, but far and few in between. Where you're going out west, you're going to Yellowstone, you're going to Tetons, you're going to Colorado. You're going out west to see some of the bigger animals and where they're more available potentially. No one's coming to Connecticut. So if you're here, it's easy to go, like I can't compete. And I just think that's the wrong attitude and the wrong way to look at it, when you can really work on your craft and save up for a trip and then have that many skills more by doing it day and day, trying to master the photo of a blue jay or a red squirrel or a gray squirrel, like whatever it may be, whatever you have access to, even in your backyard. And then you can use those skills when you have the opportunities to travel and see some of the bigger things, but not getting discouraged by the subject. That's not the competition. That's kind of an unfair handicap if you think of it that way, versus working on your photography.
I think you always want the top flight subjects or the perceived top flight subjects, but
of course,
the sharpening your skills in your own backyard is what gives me the motivation to go to different locations, because I don't want to waste the money. I don't want to waste the time if I'm not confident in what I'm doing. And I think that's the best advice you could give anybody, is just focus on what's in your backyard, what provides the most opportunity, and that'll help you sharpen your skills. And like you say, you get a good image of a quote unquote common subject. Then when the uncommon appears, you've got the advantage.
It's low stress training, right? I mean,
right.
All the chips aren't in play, and you can, as you say, Aaron, refine your skills with those animals or birds or whatever it might be, species to, or even landscapes, you name it, flowers, gardens, macro, and just become more confident without the pressure and stress of the moment, of the expense and limited time of it, a big adventure and failure. Nobody enjoys failure. What is failure when we're in the field? It's not a day in the field is a success, right? I mean, we're in a place that grounds us, that we love being, often with great friends, colleagues, or even just surrounded by sounds of nature, from a sitting and listening to a creek or a river and or bird song or wind in the pine trees. All that stuff is a win to experience. And then, the photographic charismatic animals that we want to encounter, when that happens, then it's a win. But those days that doesn't happen aren't a failure. We're still out there, and I know this is very on the surface, but we don't want to win every day, every time with our results, because it's not as exciting then. We all talk about earning it, and sometimes often those images meaning the most to us, that we've hiked further for or endured a few days of weather and something hasn't happened, but then it does. It's that perseverance. But the failure, again, that word isn't the right descriptor, but it's often perceived that way, is part of the requirement to feel the joy of success. And and one's self-confidence of the success through perseverance. And wildlife and nature photography often is that way. I mean, we get lucky sometimes on day one and something happens, but it usually feels even more exciting on day three, right? Or sometimes there was a lady I was speaking to last month who had done a trip and had very limited success last year. She decided to do it again this year, the same trip. It wasn't one with me. Just saying that. Not that they're all perfect, but but this year she knocked it out of the park. It was just amazing to see, and the joy she had because it came together. But she did it again. She tried again, and that's all part of the reward. But I love the just training your skills, and then you can do it. You'll learn your camera better when you're relaxed and shooting, and then it becomes more of a tool, an extension of us for when those very exciting momentary experiences happen.
Yeah, delayed gratification is, I think, the nice and addicting part of the whole thing. Like that random reward sort of feel that wildlife photography has is, I've described it before. It's going to the fox den, and that's where your mind is. That's what you want to see, and then a blue heron in the creek flies right at you and snags a fish, and that's the photo. But that was 0% of your consciousness until it happened. And I think those are just those surprising moments that come out of seemingly nowhere sometimes, and that give you this like super burst of energy and excitement and just awe and wonder. I have to say, like, the expectation of Seth and I just were in Alaska and saw grizzly bears, but that's the expectation, right? Like, you're going out there. And to be honest, the juvenile bald eagle that was flying around, that was zero part of my consciousness, that was hanging around right in front of us, and getting some really cool photos of that was like, wow, what a bonus. Like, that was, to me, I mean, grizzly bears, don't get me wrong, amazing. But the things that's what you're expecting. That's what you're paid for. That's what you're thinking is going to happen or hoping is going to happen. It's all the other stuff that hits you when you're out there, whether it could be anything. It just could be really anything. And you always leave, I feel like you always leave a day with something, maybe not a photo, but some sort of moment or thought or piece or just sort of a resonance of happiness leaving and wanting to come back for more, whether you missed it or it didn't happen, or you got a photo and you want to improve it the next time. There's always that sort of like, that was really nice. I can't wait for the next time.
It's interesting. A couple of things you guys said. I think everybody, I love the comments. Everything is so spot on. But even myself, I find it really hard sometimes to remind myself of those things, right? It really is, not to play on it too much, but it is a mindset thing. Like, you have to remind yourself, or at least I do, maybe everybody else doesn't, but like, I had a situation this year in the elk woods, and I think I made a post about it, but because it really hit me, and it was one of those that's like, Jason, what are you complaining about? I mean, I was having a little bit of a hard time this elk rut and wasn't getting one morning specifically wasn't getting the things, just things weren't coming together. But I'm sitting on the edge of a meadow in the fall colors, nice crisp air, the elk are bugling, things are going amazing, right? There's a lot of amazing things going on around me. Yeah, I'm not getting the images I wanted, but I get to do this. I get to be here and experience this. And sometimes it's good to just remind yourself of that, right? So that you can enjoy those moments, because sometimes if you're not going in with the right mindset, you won't enjoy those moments. You may miss the opportunity to enjoy those moments. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's important it's easy to say, it's harder to do sometimes when you're in the moment, to just step back. And we know we've talked about it quite a bit recently, and I'm trying to do more of it, where you just pull your head away from the viewfinder and just sit back and experience. You got some video, you got some good photos. Don't run away to the next thing. Step back for a minute and just enjoy what's going on. Be there, be present. Enjoy what's happening. Enjoy the fact that you get to be there and have those experiences. So,
yeah, that's a great point. Seth is great at that, I have to say. beyond his age and youthful beauty. He really is wonderful at we've been on a few trips together, and he's very good at not smashing the shutter and taking a few photos, maybe even leaving his camera behind a few times, and just like, I'm gonna enjoy this hike. And I think it's admirable, and I'm more of the mindset of like, dude, what? Like, we're what? We're
Are
here.
you crazy?
Yeah, bring your camera. Come on.
Not a very good photographer. I don't know why he invited me on.
No, he is great. He is great. But no, I think that's that space, just to let it breathe and enjoy the surroundings and be there and make sure that you're present first and foremost. Like my kingfisher, if you're chasing, and that's a mentality, right? That's I need this photo, like I have to be ready, versus sort of like letting go and letting things unfold, and understanding that if nothing happens in the day, it's not a fixed sort of outcome where that's it. That was my last day of photography. It's like, I didn't get the photo yet. I'll be out tomorrow. I'll be out the next day or next year, whatever it may be. It's sort of like a not yet thing, and kind of let go of the pressure, whatever that pressure may be, to post bangers on the internet, or you got to prove something to someone. I'm not sure what it is, but if we can let some of that stuff go and just really, I think, try to enjoy the experience for what it is with almost zero expectations, it almost always you'll leave being filled. Your cup will be filled in some way or another, whether it's from an image or a subject that you had no idea was even out there, or just peace in the woods where no one was barking that they need TPM reports, So either way, it's a win.
I think Jason, you were mentioning sometimes it's hard to cue in, but I think you just described the antidote for going down the negative path, which is, as the kids say, touch grass, right?
Yep.
Notice some things. What's the color of the meadow? How does the grass feel on my hands and my palms? Like, that's it. And then from there, you can go to, okay, why isn't this going my way? Once you've kind of settled down, why? Am I in the wrong spot? If so, like, that's well within my control. I can change that variable. So let's go make some changes to pursue success properly. If it's nothing you can change, perhaps it's just a bad outing or an unfortunate outing, which happens. It happens to the best athletes in the world. Sometimes they just have bad games despite everything. Bounces don't go their way. But I think in that order, the touch grass method, and then the okay, why, you can really avoid some unnecessary suffering. That's how Aaron would put it. Or some frustration.
Yeah. And I think to hit on Mark's point, sorry, Ron.
Go ahead.
To hit on Mark's point, just reemphasize it. I mean, he said it so perfectly, but it really is about, just reminding yourself to be in those moments, and I think that goes a long way, and none of these outings are failures. I mean, you can't emphasize that enough. And I think having that, again, mindset, every time we get to go out is never going to be a failure. You're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to be in the outdoors experiencing nature. How could that ever be a failure, right? So, I think just all those things combined together just make for a very fortunate opportunity to just be out there with a camera.
Yeah. And I always believe it too, the law of averages. For all the times that you're out there and you get bupkis, the time that it works out, you can fill a card, right? Like, it's like you can get 100 great photos. You might not edit them all, you might not, but you have them. Like the pot is so big once you hit it that you can take in image after image, moment after moment after moment. I'm still editing from that fox den, that meaningful moment. I mean, that was 2020. That was like it was 4 years ago, and I still could go through and pick out image after image after image that would be worth editing and posting. So it's kind of knowing that, all right, 5 days in a row, not much, but when it does happen, it's going to be great. Even if it's like in July when I go to, if we go to Alaska in July and it's December now, it's still like, that's going to be great compared to, you have those moments where you're like, I'm going to have editing for years from this one trip. Hopefully that's the way it goes. But more than likely just landscapes alone, so you have these things, you have these moments, but you understand, I think the game will pay you back as long as you're patient and you keep going. If on day 4 of nothing you go, you know what, this sucks, I could be folding laundry, like I could be doing so many other things. I really could be. I could be vacuuming. I could be cleaning up this mess. I'm sitting in the woods, freezing my butt off for nothing. I'm done. I'm not doing this again. Then day 5 doesn't happen for you where it was going to be that moment. So it's kind of that steady perseverance, and knowing that it will happen at times, and there's these special moments and special things that will come away from it. And when it does, you can take home a boatload.
I think there's been several mentions of athletics, and Aaron, you talked about that. And as an athlete, I think one of the biggest things that you learn, even as a young kid, in different sports arenas or classroom music, that kind of thing, is how to set goals. And I think I always have 2 goals. Number 1, every trip that I take, I want to have at least 1 portfolio shot. And that's a lot of pressure, because as you gain experience, getting that portfolio type shot gets a lot tougher, because you look at those shots a lot more intently. Mm-hmm. But number 2 is learn something new every day, and learn something new about animal behavior, learn something new about your camera, learn something new about how to make the shot in camera rather than have to, take the time to edit it once you get home to get the desired effect. But I think, the 1 applies a lot of pressure, and the things that you guys have been talking about kind of alleviate that pressure and just enjoying the moment, I think goes to the 2nd, which is learn something. And you can't learn when you're just focused, through your viewfinder. The learning takes place when you set it down and you're paying attention to everything that's going on around you, because some of the animal behavior cues that we all enjoy don't happen unless there's an external stimuli. So another bear might inspire a bear to perk up and pick their head up rather than just feeding, that kind of thing. Or a bull elk, a kingfisher. What does that do to, or what does a great blue heron flying in do to a kingfisher's behavior? And learning those things doesn't happen unless you put the camera down, so you can see everything that's going on around you and observe it. I think that's a great discussion, and I'm not calling it over, but I think it's a great discussion to have, because it's a growth process that we all go through, and just learning when to photograph and when to observe and learn.
Yeah, and we've talked about it too before, but part of this too is not being too hard on yourself. It's like knowing that it is a journey, and to just enjoy that journey, enjoy the learning curve, enjoy the experiences, and the fact that as long as you are improving every day or every time you go out or learning something, then there's success, right? So, and everybody's just at a different point along that journey. That's what I like to remind myself, right? I've been fortunate to be doing this for roughly about 10 years now as well. And I've learned a lot, and I still have a ton to learn. I mean, there's so much about photography I still don't know, and I hope I never learn it all. I know I won't ever learn it all, right? And so that's what keeps me motivated, It's just knowing that I can continually improve and learn new things and try different genres of photography, which you guys do quite a bit of. And I haven't done as much of that, which I want to try to do more of. But yeah,
I think a nice little technical trick I do for my own good is shoot single shot versus multiple shot. And I think that alone, and it depends, and that's not all the time, and I'm not saying that all the time, but I try to when I can, because I'm definitely more focused in a observational way of like, I need to get ready for this moment that I'm hoping is going to happen, and click off a couple shots as fast as I can, versus just spamming the shutter and taking in hundreds of the same photo. Right. So trying to click out moments, and you can be more critical in the sense of improving with yourself. Like, oh, I really missed that. Why? Because I was looking down at my phone because it was vibrating. Like, what were the things that I'm doing to not be the best photographer that I can be? It's much easier to see it when you're not just and collecting hundreds of the same shot. I think that's a nice thing to do out in nature, is to know I'm on single shot. Like, I have to pay attention. I have to be ready. I have to be focused. I have to be observant and ready to try to get my shot, and understand that you might miss those moments and being okay with it. I think the idea of like filling a memory card with, the bear that's in front of you is like, well, what if that shot's 0.1% better than the last one? Well, what if the next shot's 0.1% better than the last one? Like, I want the top shot, even if it's a 0.1% difference in terms of quality. We're looking for like just this sort of imaginary line that no one would know the difference, because they're not looking at the photos in front of you that you chose to edit. So it's just, this is the photo. This is the one. I think that helps sort of slow down and observe and try to pick your points.
We just had a conversation, Mark, when we talked to Mary, that was just a couple weeks ago, right? And she talked about picking up a film camera again.
Yeah.
For that very reason, and just being more attentive to composing the shot in camera and slowing herself down.
I literally wrote down the quote, Ron. It's funny because I'm kind of laughing at that very thing, because it's something that made me think differently about some stuff. And she said it's a measurement of how intentional I am being.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was pretty astute. It was like, yeah, I kind of like that. And I like, to your point, I think that's a good challenge, Aaron, is to maybe do that in the field. And Mark, I think was kind of the mindset. He had a little different mindset, right? It was more like, hey, I don't want to miss those moments, and I'm going to take every advantage I can with technology, and there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. But there's also maybe opportunities and times to just step back and take that, or shoot with a wide angle lens only, or, you know what I mean? There's a lot of ways to challenge ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So that's because Mark did shoot with film.
He's like, I played this game.
Yeah, I'm
you guys don't know what you're talking about.
I think you treat it as a drill, though, right? Not as a...
Yeah.
It's just like a drill, just going back to athletics. You train different drills. You don't always perform that under those exact parameters, right? A fun game we like to play, Aaron and I played this a few times on our retreats, is who took the least photos?
Ooh, wasn't Ron.
It wasn't Jason either.
But again, it's a drill. It's an example. Like if we're performing a drill, what are we practicing? What fundamental are we working on? In this case, we're focusing on an intent. We're focusing on observation. We're focusing on slowing down. Right? Drills have an outcome that we're trying to achieve, even if it's not the optimal way to perform. Right? Like high shutter speed burst mode is the optimal way to perform if your focus is getting the exact image you want, right? There's no question about that. But if we're trying to work on other skills, we can limit ourselves on purpose.
Yeah. Well said.
Yep.
I don't know what kind of camera you use, Aaron, with mine. When I do that now,
nice?
You can't hear it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Silent.
But something, all this is super cool to discuss, especially with you guys and all of your experience with your podcast and reflection on the thinking behind photography. But just, I have to take a deep breath and say, people, enjoy it. This is fun.
Oh, yeah.
So even if you take 200 images of some action sequence, and there are some that are better than others, just enjoy the process. Don't pressure yourself to find the best one. That one looks great. Let's edit it. Maybe Next week you'll edit a different one. It's all for enjoyment, and in summary too, being out there is the enjoyment, and we cannot control so many of the variables of wildlife and nature photography. That's the thrill, right? We train our brains and our physical response to behavior and environmental situations, but there's so many things that unfold where, oh, the animal emerged, but it's on the wrong side of light, the shadows aren't right, can't make this work. But sometimes an hour later, magic happens. There's been a pivot. Something else comes out. Those animals move. It's just those variables. We just have to be present and be observant, and things can happen. Not always, but to recognize that there's so many elements we don't control. And I love the touch grass analogy, Seth. It's fantastic. Mine is eat wild blueberries.
Nice.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. And what I observe with people in the field with me at times is there's the excitement of the action when something's wonderful happening for photo purposes. But I get, honestly, as much and sometimes more. I mean, I check that box with them, so I'm thrilled they got it. But when the animals bed down and we sit off 80 yards and just relax and absorb the scene for 2 hours, that's magic. That's where that's healing. That's what people, by the end of an experience, wherever it might be, that's what one hopes to walk away with, is calmer, the rewards of some of the photography. We fail, and again, that's not a good word for it. Things don't come together as we plan more often than they do, right? And we just have to accept that. I was in the wrong spot or didn't get out that morning and something magical happened. Celebrate it for those that did, because the wild world happens every day. And it's not just the wild world. We live on this planet. It's always active day and night. And if we're out there, things will come together at some point. So that's what I love about photography. And then so many of the elements of what you guys have discussed today are super intriguing and insightful, but also, and I think many listeners will reflect on a lot of what was said today, but I just wanted to say that this is fun too. And none of it was taken away, what you were saying. I don't mean it in that context. But to have fun with photography and what Jason was saying.
Of course.
Just breathe, take it in.
Why are we out there if we're not having fun deep down somewhere? And everyone cueing on Seth's gigantic eye roll. But one of my other passions is golf. And I feel like it's a great analogy for photography and life. But all you can do to create the best shot possible is know your pre-shot routine. So in photography, that's organizing your bag, getting everything that you need, being ready. Step up to the ball, be relaxed, take a deep breath, and put on the swing that you always put on. You hit the ball, and after the ball's gone, there's nothing you can do about it. A gust of wind can happen. It can hit a rock. It could hit a sprinkler head. It could be a bad shot. That's a good shot. It's a good shot. That's a bad shot. A lot of stuff can happen, but you have 18 more holes to play. So you have a choice in that moment to be pissed off that it didn't work out and ruin the rest of the 18 holes because your mind's stuck on that one bad moment, or move through it and take each moment as its own moment. And I think that's exactly photography. I've missed so many awesome shots that still haunt me to this day. Just out of focus, bad cropping, wasn't ready. Any of those, I'm sure we all have those moments, those shots where you still remember it. Like, oh, yep, that one still stings years later. Seth and I, the golden eagle with the fox.
Yeah, we had a golden eagle carrying a fox
right across from us, and we were too freaked
in the
out
Zion
to
Mountain,
do anything.
Zion, and we were just
we're like, ah!
I dream of it.
Freaking out. But maybe I'm drawn to these passions that reflect life in a sense of like, you just got to kind of go with it, and you can't get too far into your head or too upset by anything that happens because, as Mark said, there's so many variables, and all you can do is put yourself in the best position for the moment and see what unfolds. And if you can stay through it and stay that way, By the end of the 18 holes, you put together a pretty good round. By the end of the trip, you put together a pretty good portfolio if you can stay there. If you give up on it, then you're in trouble. If you're upset about it the whole time and stomping around, you're just not gonna do well. So I think that analogy rings true in both passions, golf and photography and life.
Well, I can't eye roll too much because that was well said.
It was.
Yeah.
The eye roll is because I can't escape golf. It's on our own podcast, and it's migrated to Beyond the Wild. So no matter where I go, I hear Aaron talk of golf.
So Jay,
he said he served it up for me. I had to do something.
He served it up, but you came through with the shot after he served it up for you.
Excellent. I'm looking out for you guys in your short form video content.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I know how hard it can be.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's all well said, but I think like the point is that the thing we like to say is the score takes care of itself, right? People are focused on the scoreboard. Good preparation, good training, getting your reps in. You do all those things and you do them well and to the best of your ability. Over time, the score takes care of itself, right? So, well said, Aaron. Despite it being golf, it's okay. I forgive you.
Thank you. Like I said, New Year's, I had to get into it.
Going back to your practice in your backyard, that fits right into the golf analogy. Get out to the driving range.
It went through your neighbor's window.
Doesn't matter. It's good practice. Practice.
You learned something.
You learn how to handle an irate neighbor. How to handle insurance claims.
Yeah. And put yourself in tough, I think, heart-pounding situations, within reason. But again, with the analogy, in the backyard or the driving range is one thing. You could be a driving range Rick and hit it feeling great all day long, but now you're on a round and your score counts. That's a whole different story. Now you're betting $50 with your friends. That's a whole different level of pressure. Now you signed up for your first tournament and you feel like you've never swung before. You're so nervous. And I feel like we've witnessed that on our trips a little bit, where it's these giant brown bears and no one's ever seen them before, and just sort of like me.
When you're freaking out in the boat, are you going to tell this story?
Yeah. I just reminded myself of it. So the night, I brought two bodies, and I had two different setups. So the night before, we were out late photographing the eagles. It was dusk. It was dark, and we were setting up tripods. And I had a delayed shutter because I was doing these shots. So there was just a 2-second delay on my tripod.
They're long expos, right? Sort of. That's why you had it on a tripod with the delay, so you get your hand off.
So I can get my hand off. It was just a lower shutter speed for such a long lens, but it was on the tripod, so I just didn't want any shake going on. Right. So that's the case. It's Alaska, so we're out there till midnight. We've been up since 5. Like, it's long days. Go home. I'm excited about these eagle shots. Great. Wake up. We had a stressful moment of the travel with weather and our bear trip being canceled and having to find another trip, and we did, luckily. And we get out there and we get right on the boat, and our first bear is right around the corner, and I'm going to shoot, and I clicked on silent mode, so I hear no shutter, and it's a 2-second delay, so nothing on my screen is flicking over. And I'm freaking out. I'm taking the lens off, taking the battery out. What is going on? Why is my camera not working? And I was all flustered with just the moment, instead of taking a deep breath and looking at my camera and looking at the drive mode and seeing, I'm on a 2-second delay, dumb. So it took me a good 5 minutes, I think, to key into it before I was like, oh my God, everyone. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I did. I'm leading this trip. I would never do that, but I'll tell you later.
I hear him behind me freaking out. Oh my God, Seth, my camera's not working. There's bears everywhere. I'm like, man, I don't know how to help you. I'm just like, my eyes on the viewfinder. I just hear him freaking. I'm like, I don't know how to help you. Like, best of luck, sir.
Yeah.
You got there though. It was like 5 minutes, but I'm sure it felt like half hour. But I think you can be like the most zen person. Like you practice mindset. We have the photographer mindset podcast, and you still have your moments where you lose it, right? Like you freak out. It's just like you can't be perfect, right? But you did find that moment to be like, okay, here's my problem. Got it. Let's move on. Like you didn't stew or ruminate.
Oh.
I've never had any problems like that.
I highly doubt that, Ron.
Yeah, it reminded my. I'm going to make fun of another friend, Adam Danny, if he's listening. But it's another great story. We were doing Astro the night before, so we're talking like 15-second exposures. And I'm driving down the Adirondacks. This is me driving, but I have Nooch 10 in my passenger seat and Adam in the passenger seat back seat. And we're going along this river, and an osprey is carrying a fish perfectly relative to my car driving, and Nooch gets his camera out and is rattling off photos. They're perfectly sharp and the background's blurred because we're moving, so it's really cool photos. And I turn back to Adam and I'm like, Adam, did you get shots too? And he goes, no, I had a 20-second exposure on that one. From the night before. He was just miserable the rest of the car ride. But
we had almost a complete podcast dedicated to me shooting Aurora in JPEG. Ooh. Because I got a R3 from Canon Professional Services for this trip up north, and did not check the settings, didn't adjust it.
Yeah.
I just shot the whole thing in JPEG. So while a couple of them did turn out, there's nothing you could do for any of the ones that didn't. So
that's tough. I almost hit a soundbite on my little interface here, like a wah, wah, wah when you said that, but I refrained.
Oh, trust me, they're all out there already.
I was going to click have you guys watched The Office?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's the Michael Scott, God, no, please, no.
Yeah, right.
I spared you.
Yeah.
JG could throw that in. But, yeah, no, there's...
We all mess up. We all
happens.
those ones that haunt us, huh? We all have, it's like the amount of times I leave my lens cap on, just like my first shot when I go, I'm like, oh, yeah, doing this 10, 15 years later.
Still doing this move.
Still doing this. But usually, to Aaron's point, we were midnight till 5 a.m. It's usually related to sleep. You do some wacky things when you're not rested.
Sleep deprived, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
It's true.
It's madness. Madness.
So, well, gentlemen, we've been at it for a little over an hour. And while we probably are going to have to do this again at some point, appreciate your time for sure. Thank you both. And I think it was a good mix of, both podcasts actually. Talked quite a lot about mindset, but also just the benefits of getting out and enjoying time away from the city or small town, whichever happens to be your location. But thank you very much. And make sure, we talked about a couple different camera systems. You can get them all from Pictureline.
That's right.
That's the sponsor of today's episode?
Sponsor every episode. Yeah, Pictureline's been great for us and to us.
Great.
So we appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having us on. We appreciate it as well. I agree with you. I think it was a good blend of our two shows, and we're down to do it whenever. You guys are all welcome back on our show, whenever. Aaron keeps saying that he doesn't want you back, but I'm vouching for you guys.
Yeah, I love it.
I've been petitioning for a while. He's like, any of the three? And I was like, no, 0 of the 3.
All of them.
No, of course. Anytime. It's nice to switch it up and answer some questions and think reflectively versus the other way around. So we appreciate it.
And I like how different all your episodes were on our show. It's amazing, you guys. Like I said, you spent so much time together, but you're all so different and unique. So it was cool to interview you all
different,
independently. All right. I won't dig. I won't go dig in there, but
go ahead,
As are
Mark.
both of you. Right. So complimentary for sure. And I'm a little sad about the comment, Aaron, but I'll get over it in a couple of days.
Yeah, we'll see if you guys can redeem yourselves. And
Now I'll just
change my mind.
sending you messages. How about next month, you guys? Do you want to do another? Can I come on?
Are you busy tomorrow?
What about June?
What about tomorrow?
Nope,
did another
still
trip.
busy.
Let me know if someone cancels. We'll step in. It's really desperate.
You message him, you're like, hey, you want to come on the show? It's tomorrow. You had a cancellation, didn't you?
Yeah, right.
Ooh, that's what I could do for AI. Just ask it to generate a appearance proposal. We've been getting appearance proposal after proposal after proposal from every
really?
AI generated marketing network
Oh, geez.
lately.
Are you guys seeing that too?
Yeah, I always say the same thing. I say we're not accepting guests at this time. Am I replying to a robot? Is that what you're telling me?
I think so.
What a waste of my time.
We think they thought Mark's name was Kelly, so yeah, I'm assuming that you are.
One of them is his alias.
Yeah, one trip. I did it. It's like
That's funny. Oh, man. Well,
The Google remembers, Mark. The Google remembers.
always fun. It's good to laugh. Good to share time with people. Hear stories, perspectives. That's what we love about podcasting. People we meet
it's great.
from all around the world, and it's virtually always interesting.
Yeah, it's funny. You become friends, right? Like, it's just it's a different level of closeness. You could be friends on social media, but you sit down and talk for an hour with someone, and now for us, probably close to 3 hours. You just like, hey, if you were out in Connecticut, there'd be no hesitation in meeting up for dinner or taking you to some local spots and showing you around. And I'm sure
Come see the squirrels. Come see the squirrels.
We got 6 squirrels. Real good squirrel situation.
That is an open invitation the other way, though. Seriously.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
Anytime.
So, all right, guys.
It was fun.
Mark,
Thanks for having us again.
gentlemen, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Appreciate you guys.
Take care.
See ya.
Take care.
And that's a wrap for another episode of Beyond the Wild podcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Pictureline.com, your online source for everything photography, and Canon USA.